morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our guests here. So, before we get started, I want to give some context to our audience on what we're going to be talking about today. Over the last several months, the ad tech industry has been scrambling for solutions to third-party cookies. To break it down further in numbers, across 4 billion devices, third-party cookies will be removing effectively roughly $60 billion of bottom line for social media companies. So we're talking Meta, Twitter, through to 2023. I hope that indicates the magnitude of what we're about to discuss on this panel today. So now that we have some numbers, to our guests, let's start. So what I'm curious to know as an outsider of this industry is what consequences will the evolution of cookie-less alternatives have in the MENA region for publishers, clients, or even consumers like yourself? Ahmed, if you want to take the lead.
So how it affects the normal audiences? Actually, the main point, there is the good and bad news here. The good news is, today, if you visit a certain website looking for a product like a new mobile phone, laptop, whatever, trust me, the ads will be chasing you for the rest of your life, asking you to purchase this or order that. The good news is this ads will be very fewer than before. I'm not gonna say it will be like forbidden or something like this. No, it will stay, but it will be very minimum because it will be very hard to track your first-party data. And that's why I think the tech industry innovates this cookie-less solutions. The bad news is, from the as a normal user behavioral, you will start seeing every website and mobile app asking you to sign up. Sign up to read that content, sign up to download that, sign up for that newsletter. Because actually there is a big mess once it applied blocking third-party cookies, no one will be able to track you. So they will start asking you to sign up to start tracking you with the first-party data like email or phone number or whatever the tools they can identify your profile based on. Second thing, you will start seeing a lot of surveys everywhere. Surveys asking you for your gender, for your age, everywhere. The same way you accept the cookies right now, trust me, you will see surveys asking you more and more to fill up this forms or others to collect this user profile. This how the new websites and mobile apps will be for the future. I'll keep for the advertiser one for Tarek here because he's leading on this part. And we, as Arab says, always لا يفتى وملك في المدينة. So, please.
No pressure. Look, I want to talk from the publisher's website, side, from the content creators. A lot of long-tail publishers exist now without the right quality because of their ability to get ads from cookies and from there. I think once you stop that, we're going to see, we're going to see the death of many long-tail publishers who are not necessarily giving any good user experience. And if we look at a lot of the publishers in the Arab world, and this is a personal point of view, not a survey, the experience is horrible. It's horrible. The content is just average. The experience of getting into the publisher is dismal. There's nothing exciting to do that. They exist because they exist. A lot of journalists who are legacy journalists covering news are just dumping this content now on website and expecting to make money, right? So once you take this away, now the publishers, to collect data, will have to ask the users and the audience to go on the websites to register, right? And maybe to pay a little bit of money. But if you want to pay a little bit of money and register, you want something back. So those who can improve the user experience and those who can improve the content will survive. And the others will just disappear from the market over time, right? Now, so a lot of the publishers will have to look at their talent base. So who can make these survive in the age post cookies? Not only the technical teams, because a lot of the focus is on technical teams, but there's a lot of value from the writers, the journalists, the content creators who can create content that people would want to pay for or register for or sign in. Because if these publishers collect this data, then the data will flow back to brands, will flow back to advertising. And brands will move from collecting cookies to building their own databases, and they will rely on surveys like Ahmed mentioned and on these publishers to collect this data. So I think it will be a shock to the system, but it's survival of the fittest. The weakest who existed for unjustifiably for too long would just die or disappear.
Do you think there are quite a lot of weak links here in the region? You mentioned horrible, like content in this region. Why do you think that challenge exists? Is it particular just to our region or like a global problem that should be solved? An opportunity?
I mean, it's a problem everywhere. Look, there are two reasons. There hasn't been a lot of focus from the publishers on writers and content producers, right? Because they could get away with it with the legacy platforms, right? Now we started seeing younger writers who can develop long form, medium form content who are more exciting, but there aren't enough. The second one, and there's a lot of subsidies in the region. So a lot of the media is subsidized by government, so they're not P&L driven. So they just go on, they lose money for a lot of time. I know we all don't want to say it, but it's the case across all the countries. So they exist because they exist. They're paying to get some jobs done. But now this is with a lot of government under budget issues and no revenue coming from advertising because of cookies, they should disappear.
Hisham, your thoughts? Maybe an alternative perspective.
Sure. Look, let me start by saying, look, this is a very technical topic, so I'm gonna try and answer. I'm gonna answer it at a very high level. I'm gonna try and simplify it because even myself working at Google to get into that level of technical detail is, a lot of people would be falling asleep. Let's put it that way. So, look, let me start by saying the digital advertising industry is going through a paradigm shift at the moment. And with any change, comes fear and resistance to change, if you will. So I want to share with you an example of how the industry adapted to change in the past, which will help us understand potentially how this may play out in MENA, but across the rest of the world as well. So if I talk about the rise of mobile about 10 years ago, at first the industry pretty much ignored it. And then the next phase was, resisting it because it's inconvenient, it's unfamiliar. People want to continue doing things the way they had been doing it before. It was working, so people feared change. And then the next phase was embracing it because there was no choice. And what ended up happening is that it became the single biggest growth driver over the next decade. And I believe this is what will happen with privacy as well, or the deprecation of third-party cookies.
Definitely an interesting way to put it. I'm sure easier for our audience to understand. I want to now shift gears slightly to talk about solutions. So as with businesses, organizations, given that with third-party cookies will soon be out of the equation, how can they benefit from first-party data? We've kind of mentioned this, but I'd like to dig in more. Tarek, if you want to start with
the question is for brands or for the whole?
For brands, businesses. Yeah.
Okay. So the brands will take back control of their own destiny, right? When you start building your first-party data, means you own the data for your audience, and then this data you can use it to build loyalty, right? Versus now you're at the mercy of the platform. Same as in commerce. So if a lot of your commerce happens on any marketplace and you don't own the first interaction, then it's up to this marketplace to recommend any brand that makes sense to them. So for the brand to own It's first-party data means they can activate it the way that they can, and most important, they can build loyalty. So they are able to increase lifetime value of their customers versus a quick win. But for the overall system, there will be a redistribution of the economic value. So if you look now, a lot of the tech platforms build walled gardens around their data. And now there are three parties, are the users, content creators, and tech platforms, right, in this system. The platforms created fantastic technology. They make around $580 billion of revenue per year. The content creators, who are creating all this content for all of us to use these platforms, make 15.8, so 16 billion to 600 billions. And the users who are giving all this data, so all of us, we're making zero. We're making good experience, but zero value, right? So if the content creators can now go back with new solutions to own their data, if the audience can own their data, maybe there will be redistribution for everyone, including the brands. But now, it's unfair how it is distributed.
Ahmed?
It's unfair, but we work a lot to build this audience. Yeah. Okay, so let me take it from the perspective of the AdTech solution. Actually, the point is, yes, we make more money. I'm not going to deny this from the data. But the main point is, let's see how the market are operating today. Today, if you visit a certain website, all the ad units that you see across the website are collecting data on behalf of the publisher without paying anything to the publisher himself. And the publisher doesn't have the tools to block this data to be collected. So I'm serving an ad for X brand, the brand collecting the data, putting it in a certain DMB. The transition should be from the DMB to the customer data platforms, the CDPs. Because if each publisher starts building their own CDPs and collecting their own data, they will have the right and the enforcement to ask everyone to benefit out of the first-party data that they collect. But coming to the long-tail publishers, actually, who can build the DB? Actually, it costs millions of dollars to build this. So I think the big publishers will, or big content creators will benefit out of this. But the small one, still, they need to rely on AdTech solutions, which is they will make a lot of money too. Google already came up with a solution for the privacy sandbox. And the good thing, guys, this privacy sandbox today, it's open for discussion. So even Google, they didn't decide yet how they apply it. They open the discussion for everyone to talk and discuss how you need to save your own privacy. So, and this changed day by day until I think 1 year from now, they will start applying it in Chrome browser. So you guys as audiences, you have the rights now to vote and see how can you save your own privacy? The publishers can go, for example, I see some big publishers from UK, they innovate something like the safe frame, a new model of safe frame to block the publisher from advertisers, from understand what inside the frames itself, which is a very good solution that will help the publishers. So Hisham, how you see it from Google perspective, the public one?
So let me take a step back first and share with you, Google's position on this. So first, we believe in a free and open web. And I want to try and simplify it again. And what I mean by that is making the products that we give to everyday users free to create this cycle that makes it work for all of the key stakeholders involved. And those are users, advertisers, and publishers. So let me talk about why privacy matters before I talk about first-party data in particular. So privacy matters for the user because they have concerns about who they're sharing their data with and how it's being used. So there's a trust issue. So it's about building trust with users, okay? If you build trust with users, they will engage more. So that's the first key stakeholder. For advertisers, the evolution that we're going through at the moment is an opportunity for them to start building direct relationships with their customers. Direct relationships. That's what first-party data is, okay? And if they do so, that gives them a better understanding of their customers, and hence they can create better experiences for them, which ultimately would lead to better performance and higher ROI. And then by doing those first two, so addressing users and advertisers, publishers would be able to better monetize their inventory and continue to create great content. So my final point, to answer your question about first-party data in particular, first-party data is the foundation for machine learning. And machine learning is what helps predict outcomes. That's why it's so valuable to advertisers. So to simplify this again, what does this mean in everyday terms? For any advertiser that decides to leverage first-party data, on average, they will see returns that are twice as high for any single ad placement and 1.5 times more cost efficient. So that's how first-party data will drive growth for advertisers in particular.
Big numbers again. What I'm hearing across the board is that users are key stakeholders, and something that's come up again with you, Hisham, is monetization, and Tarek, you mentioned content. So I guess to wrap things up, I'm sure the audience is curious to know what role does Web3 play in all of this, and what's the future looking like with integration of content creators? We have a lot of under 30 people here, perhaps a lot of content creators. What does this mean for them? Tarek, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, sure. I think it will redistribute the economic value. So what I mentioned before, 580 million for tech platform, AdTech players, 15.8 for the content creators globally, billion, and 0 for users. So this doesn't make sense, right? For Web3, for the potential of tokenizing the media, some of the media platforms means me as a user, if I go on a platform and by interacting with the platform, providing my data, I can buy a token of this platform, means I own part of if this value of this platform increases, I gain parts. The value doesn't go only to the platform. So tokenization will play a big game. It's predominantly now in gaming. We haven't seen it in media going big. Real estate is another factor, but when it comes to media, there will be. For content creators is to be able to take their content and audience off platform. Because now, if you're a content creators and create it on, I don't want to name any specific platform, but if you get it there, the platform owns your content. So you can only monetize it there. If you take it outside, it's impossible, right? So can NFTs be used as a way to prove your ownership, and this ownership can go to be owned by someone else? If you buy my NFT as a content creator, resell it, can I still make money out of it? So there's a lot of experimentation happening over there, still very early stages, but these three numbers currently, they don't make sense. 580, 15.8, and 0, they don't make sense.
Ahmed, if you want
Sorry,
to...
Ahmed.
Hello. Are you making $0 out of your content? Hello? Yeah. It's working, yeah. Oh, okay. So are you making $0 out of your content or not? Yeah.
We're trying,
question,
yeah. I want to, it's not all doom and gloom. That's what I'm trying to prove to our audience here. I want to give them some, some optimistic and...
I understand. So actually, I agree with Tarek. How each dollar that spent on the digital industry, how it's split between the different, between the AdTech and publishers. The publisher at the end of the chain, especially the content creators. The Web3 will change this, but the change will be very hard because actually you are working with Forbes for sure, and they have a lot of things to do to bring audiences to their own website or magazine and others. So if you see from a profit perspective how Web3 will help, it will help everyone, but I can disagree with Tarek. Disagree here doesn't mean that who is right and who is wrong, because this is something very new. it will remain the same with my hope that media agencies will remain running the business for advertisers. Media agencies need AdTech like Google, like FoxPush, and other companies to reach the right audiences somehow. But the split between the publisher organizations and the content creator, here is the new main change that will happen with the Web3 once it comes. But to be very realistic, here in our region, especially in Egypt, I don't think this transition will be easier, because actually I can say, for example, the GDPR compliance already launched in 2019, or in Europe, for example, till today, 0 websites in Egypt are working with GDPR compliance. So I'm not sure when they will do this. So it will take too much time to be applied in our region, which is something good and bad at the same time. Applying some new technology will, as Tarek said, some publisher will disappear and some new publisher will remain. So we need to see an example of other markets, what they will do first, until we can apply it in our market for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned Egypt for relevance. I mean, I can continue picking your brains, but I really want to open up the floor to the audience. Can we please? All right, you know where they are. Please reach out to them with more questions, as I will. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your insights. Thank you, everyone.